are just a few weeks away from the start of the new academic year, and we know that many parents and guardians are nervous about what is to come, seeing that COVID-19 is still amongst us. If you are anxious to know the steps being taken by government to safeguard your children this academic year, today's Jamaica Magazine is all you need. Stay tuned.
The JIS Heritage Competition is celebrating 10 years of youth expression on Jamaican history, culture, and tradition.
Let me tell you about our Bashment heritage.
Jamaica still needs national heroes to preserve our cultural legacy.
Bogo got his men and led them down over the hills to Spanish Town.
Jamaican music to me represents our identity and culture as Jamaicans.
Add your voice and play your part in preserving our national heritage. The JIS Heritage Competition 2020, coming soon.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, August 14. The Ministry of National Security and Excelsior Community College have signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU for the Bachelor of Science program in Business Administration. Among the offerings of the MOU is the opening of the degree program to the ministry staff and their families. Phase 1 of the agreement was brokered in 2019, and now 70 employees are currently enrolled in the bachelor's program. Speaking at Wednesday's signing ceremony, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Diane McIntosh, said the program aims to educate, train, and certify participants so that they can compete at world-class standards. An internal audit that was conducted by the ministry revealed that approximately 29% of its staff members did not have the minimum qualification needed for the post they currently occupy.
Commencing in September 2020, the ministry now, in partnership with the ECC, will be introducing several new programs to further boost the organizational capacity, support staff development with the ministry, such as the online BSc and the CSEC's training for auxiliary staff and other training programs.
The Permanent Secretary said the pursuit of higher education epitomizes a mechanized response to improving the ministry's capacity to respond to matters of national security, while enhancing informed discussion on policies and matters of national interest. Principal of the community college, Fillmore McCarthy, said the upskilling program is a strategy in ensuring that the Jamaican workforce, in particular the workers of the Ministry of National Security, are certified and prepared for their roles and functions.
This program, we believe, will enable such activities to be realized. It will also ensure that the quality services that will be provided by different government agencies will improve. And in so doing, the productivity and effectiveness of the Jamaican workforce, as well as services to our citizens, will be improved.
The Ministry of Education says it is taking steps to address the concerns of parents regarding the reopening of school this September. Acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Kassan Troop, sought to allay the fears of parents during a virtual webinar yesterday.
We can't say definitively that everything that we have planned will work. But what I can tell you, we are collaborating, we are communicating, we are reimagining, we are redesigning, and we are changing as we go along. There's no static approach in treating it back to school. We have to be flexible, we have to be agile, we have to listen, we have to do research, and all of that is taking place to make sure that school can take place come September.
She said that principals have been trained and are doing the clinical planning and organizing so that their schools can operate efficiently.
We have the education in emergency, administration guidelines. We have the education in emergency, reopening plan for schools. We have the administration in emergency, education in emergency, curriculum implementation schedule and actual examples. We have actually developed our psychosocial plan to a point in which it is even granular, where an actual plan can be picked up from a school leader and a guidance counselor and utilize that for our students.
During the webinar, which was conducted under the theme Managing the Jamaican Education Landscape During the COVID-19 Pandemic, From Planning to Implementation, the ministry outlined policies for the education sector in the context of the pandemic and beyond. Presentations were made by numerous representatives from the World Bank, UNESCO, UNICEF, and the CARICOM Secretariat. 6 new samples have tested positive for the novel coronavirus in the last 24 hours, which brings the total number of confirmed cases in Jamaica to 1,071. The newly confirmed cases are 1 female and 5 males, with ages ranging from 10 to 61 years of age. The cases were recorded in the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew with 3 cases, St. Thomas with 2 cases, and St. Catherine with 1 case. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton gave the update during the ministry's COVID Conversations digital press conference on Thursday.
3 cases are contacts of confirmed cases, and 3 cases are under investigation. In terms of recoveries, 1 additional case has recovered and been released from care. Total recoveries are now at 754.
Dr. Tufton noted that there are now 241 active cases currently under observation, 6 moderately ill patients and 1 critically ill patient. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Are you aware of how Jamaican adolescents use social media? What do they do online? What do they post? Do you know if they are being harassed? These are questions you should be asking yourself because it is your duty to keep your children safe online. Parents, here's what you need to do. Be active online and offline. Help your child to set up his or her online profile. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the different social media applications that they use and set some rules. Protect our nation's children and save them from cybercriminal attacks.
Up next, the information you have been waiting on, a breakdown of some of the Education Ministry's achievements and plans for the upcoming academic year.
A lot of changes had to be made in the past few months as the country tackles the COVID-19 pandemic, but the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information rose to the challenge.
Through countless consultations and meetings, we have developed a response to the COVID-19 crisis that we believe will be in the best interest of our students. In early March, the ministry drafted and shared with schools an emergency in education plan, which, among other things, called for collaboration with school administrators through our regional offices to organize training for teachers to help with remote teaching and learning through the use of internet platforms, something we had never contemplated having to do to the scale and size that we have had to do.
The ministry also ensured that printed material were distributed where access to internet service was limited or non-existent. Partnerships were established with internet service providers for lower data fees or zero-rated data to allow for greater access. The ministry engaged with numerous partners in producing material for radio and television educational broadcasts and is currently working with other private providers of educational material for the development of online sessions. As the ministry looks towards the new school year, which begins in September, preparations are being made to safeguard students and staff against COVID-19. For some institutions, additional spaces are being identified to allow for continued social distancing.
We have been in dialogue with a number of churches to use their halls and other available spaces, and we want to thank our church leaders for responding to this national need, and they have responded admirably. Across the 7 regions, more than 52 churches so far have made their halls available at request. We are negotiating with others.
The minister says 30% of schools currently function under capacity and can therefore operate with the existing spaces they have, while others have opted to use tents. In the meantime, schools are developing their individual plans for reopening in accordance with the guidelines stipulated by the ministry.
Staff will be deployed to clean and sanitize school buildings, classrooms, and other facilities prior to the resumption of school, and according to a daily routine while school is in operation. Staff and students will receive training on the importance of social, physical distances and other precautionary hygiene practices to prevent the spread of this vile virus.
Additionally, all schools will implement a mandatory psychosocial program in the first month. It will be supported by guidance counselors, deans of discipline, school nurses, health and family life teachers, social workers, and education officers.
Psychosocial sessions must also be on the timetable for all students to help them cope with the changes imposed on them as a result of the pandemic.
To further aid preparations for the new academic year, all public education institutions were allotted additional sums of between $500,000 and $1 million. Secondary institutions were provided with $600,000 each to procure furniture, while the ministry is sourcing tables and chairs for primary schools.
This provision is in addition to the regular grants provided to schools in April and June, which amount to over $2.8 billion.
In addition, over $425 million has been allocated to carry out repairs at 156 schools under the 2020-2021 Critical Maintenance Program. The funds are being used for critical repairs to sanitary facilities, termite treatment, and repairs to roofs, electrical and sewage disposal systems, plus other critical matters.
To date, 56 schools have been completed. 8 schools are up to 98% completion. 9 schools are up to 80% completion. 22 schools are up to 50% completion. And 19 schools are up to 20% completion.
More than $567 million will be used to carry out pre-contract activities for 9 expansion projects and electrical upgrading to 8 schools.
It will also be used to construct security fencing, complete the upgrading of the ministry's facility to make outstanding payments for projects carried forward, and to commence work in 3 schools.
In light of COVID-19, the ministry will be adopting a blended educational approach to teaching and learning in the upcoming school year.
The model adopted will allow for all students to benefit from meaningful and appropriate learning experiences. We intend to reach students by providing them with diverse learning opportunities and resources using that mix.
To resolve the digital divide experienced by some students, over 100,000 laptops and tablets are being procured in time for the new school year.
These devices will be distributed on a phased basis beginning in late August. Students on the Program of Advancement through Health and Education PATH will receive devices.
Additionally, the ministry is partnering with existing providers to procure and fully establish a national learning management system.
This will allow schools to continue to use systems they already have, and for the ministry officers to be able to track and monitor the activities of the system and to obtain data to inform intervention.
He says the National Learning Management System will allow teachers to create, deliver, and manage lessons and other training materials.
Teachers who have comorbidities can use the LMS to deliver their lessons, and children who are homeschooled because of comorbidities can also access the LMS.
School leaders will also be able to use it to set and track assignments, track performance, post video clips, pictures, and animations. They will also be able to generate discussions around those focus areas.
Mr. Speaker, as I close my presentation, I must make special mention of the many stakeholder groups that have worked with us in this last several months as we have faced this unprecedented threat. Thank you for your support. Notwithstanding the challenges, I can confidently say that we are moving in the right direction.
Create, design, share, and win prizes with your art in the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management ODPEM Digital Poster Competition. Posters must be titled and themed Hurricane Preparedness. The competition opens August 13 and closes September 4. To enter, you must be a student between 12 and 18 years old. For more information on contest guidelines, visit our social media pages, website, or just give us a call. It's ODPEM's Digital Poster Competition.
As you may already know, most tertiary institutions will reopen their gates to returning students as per usual at the end of August. However, because CSEC and CAPE examination results will not be available until late September, most institutions have agreed to delay the start of the academic year for new or incoming students, so they will not be disenfranchised. Now, if you're looking forward to attending the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts this September, rest assured that you're making a great decision, because not only is the institution the first and only dedicated college of visual and performing arts in Jamaica, it is celebrated for offering a wide array of courses that meet the unique conditions of all its students. Watch this.
There's a sort of purposeful selection of the sequence in these human movements. The symbolic significance of hands massaging the air and feet beating to the vibrations of songs. They're focused, energized, ready, and raring to go. If you think about it, they are just like you and I. Well, of course, that's if you can dance. But one thing might be different.
I've been there for 23 years, and I've been dancing for 10 years. I've been there for 21 years, and I've been dancing for 14 years. So I've been hard of hearing ever since I was born until now. And I've been dancing for 16 years.
Yes, persons like Christoph, Kimberly, and Damani dance. And despite nature's act of removing a seemingly valuable aspect of their senses, these three are pursuing a certificate in dance at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, but not without some challenges.
Well, my experience here, at first, when the three of us just arrived, we were a bit awkward in terms of communicating, but then we were able to learn from each other, learning from the hearing students, and we were able to, we had issues as well with the rhythm, keeping up with the rhythm at all times, but then we were eventually able to catch up and we started to improve gradually. So for me, my main issue is timing. So I try to work along closely with the other students in the class and the teacher as well, and then eventually I'm able to catch up with the timing in terms of the music. So my challenge during class, it's really to ensure that my body is moving with the timing and the music.
Deaf dancers do move on the beat and in one accord with the rhythm. But the surprising element in this for most persons is just how are they able to, or even why did they choose dance?
I hear a little of the music and I can feel the vibration on the floor as well. So it's not that bad for me. So I use that method throughout.
With his sense of touch heightened through his loss of hearing, Damani can interpret the music through the vibrations he feels. Deaf dancers are visual learners, so for them, their instructors sign the moves or the counts. While other dancers are busy remembering the details of the moves, those like Damani, Kimberly, and Christoph are counting, keeping time, and watching keenly what their hearing peers are doing so they can interpret the steps.
So I chose to study dancing because dancing is my life. It's my passion ever since. So I want to learn more and more about dancing. I don't want to give up. I don't want to stop. I want to continue. Because my goal is to become a dancer in the future. So when I'm finished at Endemani College, I want to become a dancer and I want to perform around the world. So my goal is to become a dance teacher so that I can empower younger deaf children who really love dancing and empower them so that they can, be as good as I am. It's their turn.
But for acting dean at the School of Dance, being deaf is not the biggest obstacle for becoming a great dancer.
I don't want to describe what we have as challenges. I want to describe them as opportunities to learn. But fundamental to dance is the ability to demonstrate and for the dancer to use their eyes and observe and learn the experience in a visual way and then demonstrate what it is that they have been taught. I think one of the interesting things about the deaf students is that their other senses are heightened. And so they're able to access the information in other ways and quite differently from the hearing students. So it's very interesting to see the learning dynamics, but the end result and the objective or the learning outcome of the experience are still achieved. And we're very happy about that because ultimately we want them to succeed.
And while for the school it is the first time opening its gates to persons like Christoph, Kimberly, and Damani to study dance,
they're eager to receive the information and we're inspired by this drive to learn and to succeed. So even though we have an interpreter, the interpreter is also learning from the experience because we have interpreters who have never been in a school environment like this where dance is concerned, so they're also learning new language. It somehow feels as though they've brought more to us.
For many of the deaf community, the fear of fitting in lingers. But for Christoph, Kimberly, and Damani, dancing is passion-driven and determination-ruled.
Well, I hope that what we've done here at the Endemani College in terms of opening our doors to 3 deaf students will encourage others and inspire them to go after their dreams.
So I remember in high school, there was a quote that says, "I believe I can achieve." I go by that. So in the Bible, it talks about, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." I believe I can achieve.
Listen now as Acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Kassan Troop, shares with you more steps being taken to address the concerns of parents and the needs of students.
We have been listening and we have been trying very hard to make sure that nobody is left behind. I'm proud to report to you parents that all our students will be assessed coming back to school. I know you're concerned about the learning lapse that would have taken place and the learning loss that some persons would have articulated as a major concern because some persons were not fully engaged during the remote teaching. So what we will be doing this year, when we resume, we'll be supporting our teachers to conduct or to administer the assessment diagnostic instruments for our grade 1s to grade 9 students. And the school principals at the secondary level for grades 10 to 13 will develop those assessment instruments at the school level, and we will support them in the administration process. We will also assist our schools in marking and analyzing the data so we can develop the individual learning plans and the remedial programs that will be required to get the students back on their learning path. That kind of support will be provided for September.
Well, I dare to make a difference, and I dare to take a stand. Let me dare to think of someone else who's in need of a helping hand.
The Office of the Children's Advocate is very aware that we have some parents who get particularly anxious at the start of a new school year. And so we really just wanted to share with you a few tips that you can utilize to help keep your children, especially the very young ones who are going out for the first time, nice and safe from sexual abuse. Parents need to recognize that the private parts, as we call them, or the genitalia, are regular parts of the body. And so in teaching your children about the forehead and the nose and the hand, you can also teach them the names of these body parts, because that does two things. It puts them in a position to speak about these parts when something is going wrong, and it also tells them that even though they're private parts, it's not too private to talk about, particularly with a parent. Children need to know that there should be no secrets between them and their parents or guardians. Oftentimes, when persons want to abuse children, they tend to encourage them to keep a little secret. You know, this is between me and you. But from very early, parents need to establish with their children that the lines of communication are open. Mommy and daddy, or auntie and uncle, or whoever is the responsible adult in that child's life, can actually have a discussion, age appropriate of course, about anything at all that may be troubling the child. The third tip is that parents need to cultivate throughout the child's lifespan that environment whereby the child feels comfortable to speak. Conversation should not be off limit, topics should not be taboo, and you really need to get to a stage whereby you have teachable moments, we call them. So we see a lot of things reported in the newspapers, sometimes on the nightly news, and we can use some of these instances of horrible things that are happening to other children to start little discussions with our own children to give them tips as to how they can avoid or prevent, perhaps completely, any such reality happening to them. For these tips, and of course any other information that deals with children, that is anyone under 18 years, please feel free to contact the Office of the Children's Advocate. We're at 72 Harbour Street, downtown Kingston, and our numbers are 948-1134, or website www.oca.gov.jm.
Well, I dare to make a difference, and I dare to take a stand. Let me dare to think of someone else who's in need of a helping hand.
And this is where our program ends today. Thanks so much for tuning in to our show. As we depart, do remember that you can join us again on our website, jis.gov.jm, or our YouTube channel. And while you're online, do feel free to send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm and via our social media pages. On behalf of the production crew, I'm Audrey. Have a safe weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.